Hello, family. Welcome to our channel where we bring you exciting story. Please subscribe to this channel because it means so much to us. Kindly like, comment, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss any of our story. Note, you can click on the CC icon on the screen if the subtitle is not showing. Sit back and enjoy.
So I recently had to deal with something no husband should ever have to. A crazy Karen slapped my pregnant wife in front of half the neighborhood. And the reason? Because we wouldn't bow down to her. And the only thing she got in the end was served in court. Let me start from the very beginning. Before we dive in, let me know where you're listening from today. We thought we were buying into peace and quiet. Turns out, we bought into a war zone with lawn gnomes and some fascism. The day we moved in, the sun was shining, the moving truck was late, and my wife, 6 months pregnant and glowing, was sipping lemonade like a suburban goddess. And then came Karen, polo shirt, bleached smile, clipboard clutched like it contained the nuclear codes. "Welcome to Sycamore Grove," she said with that tight, Botox-pulled smile, like we were the stray dogs who'd wandered into her garden party. Her eyes flicked from my wife's belly to our bumper sticker, to our modest but paid-off SUV, like she was profiling us for HOA crimes we hadn't committed yet. My wife smiled and said thanks. Karen didn't smile back. Instead, she handed us a pamphlet titled, "Your Lawn, Your Duty." "Everything you need to know," she chirped. "We take pride in Sycamore Grove." Then, pause for effect, she added, "And congrats. Must be nice having the time to focus on family." My wife blinked. I didn't say anything, not yet. We had boxes to unpack and dreams to install. I should have known better. Karen walked off like a reality TV villain, making her entrance one episode too early. Over the next 7 days, we received 5 official HOA notices. Trash bins left out 10 minutes past pickup. Fence color, slightly inconsistent with approved tones. Mailbox, excessively whimsical. It had a small solar light on top. Criminal, I know. Apparently beige wasn't beige enough. My wife laughed them off. "She's bored." Karen wasn't bored. She was building a case. And I was too busy installing baby monitors and grill covers to see it. She started showing up when I was alone. Twice at the mailbox. Once by the side gate. "I hope she's taking it easy," Karen said. Eyes locked on my chest like I was a steak. Some women get so tired near the end. I made polite excuses, left quickly. My wife noticed every interaction. "She's watching me," she said one night, staring through the blinds. I shrugged. "She watches everyone." My wife didn't blink. Not like this. Then came the barbecue neighborhood welcome event. Folding tables, pasta salad, beer, paper plates. My wife wore a soft yellow sundress, hair up, comfortable, glowing in that effortlessly divine way that made her hard to ignore. Karen wore a halter top, meant for a bachelorette cruise, and carried herself like she owned every man within line of sight. She walked over to our table with 2 glasses of wine, handed one to me, didn't bring one for my wife. "Oh," she said, faking surprise. "You're still abstaining, even now?" My wife smiled. "Doctor's orders." Karen leaned in. "That's a shame. Wine helps with nerves. You're not nervous about labor?" My wife's smile didn't even flicker. Not even slightly. Karen laughed. "Well, some women are built for motherhood." She said it loud enough for the neighbors to hear. People shifted. Then, crash. Karen bumped her wine glass into my wife's foot. "Oops," she said, eyes wide. "Twice in one night? I must be tipsy." I stood up. Karen smiled at me. "It must be exhausting for you, carrying the weight of everything." She didn't mean the boxes. I walked away. She watched me the whole time. 3 days later, we got a certified letter. Violation. Unapproved modifications to front entry. We'd bought a new welcome mat. It said, "Go away." We were trying irony. Karen took it as a declaration of war. She went door to door, telling neighbors my wife was faking the pregnancy. Said we were short-term scammers. Probably can't even afford the HOA fees. Another notice arrived. Community mediation encouraged. Mediation for breathing? We ignored it. That night, my wife was watering plants barefoot. Sunset, quiet. The kind of moment you want to remember. And then Karen stepped onto the sidewalk. stood there, watching. My wife waved. Karen didn't move, didn't speak, just lifted her phone and started recording. Not the yard, not the house, just my wife, standing there, watering the hydrangeas, like she was documenting a threat. I stepped outside. Karen kept filming. "Evening," I said. She lowered the phone, smiled, just making sure everything's safe. My wife spoke before I could. "You might want to turn the camera around. The real threat's behind it." Karen's smile froze. And then, so soft I almost missed it, she said, "Pregnancy hormones make some women unstable. Just be careful. These kinds of stories spread fast." She turned and walked away. Because the next time we saw Karen, she didn't bring a clipboard. She brought backup. And what happened on that sidewalk wouldn't just humiliate my wife, it would detonate the HOA's golden girl. And this time, we'd be ready. At first, I thought the wine incident would be the peak. I mean, how do you top publicly humiliating a pregnant woman at a barbecue? Turns out, that was Karen's warm-up act. Because the following Monday, we received a letter, typed formal, full HOA seal at the top, like it was from the Pentagon. It listed 12 violations. 12! My wife read it aloud like she was hosting a true crime podcast. Violation 1, decorative door wreath exceeds size limitations. We'd hung a $5 eucalyptus circle from Target. Violation 2, unapproved lawn ornament, object identified as gnome-like. We didn't own a gnome. We had a turtle, ceramic, slight smile. Violation 3, trash bins positioned at an offensive angle. That one nearly broke me. We laughed so hard we nearly dropped our breakfast. Until I flipped the page. Because at the bottom, there was a formal recommendation for mediation. Again. But this time, it wasn't just signed by Karen. There were 4 other names. HOA board members, one of whom I'd never even heard of. "She's recruiting," my wife said flatly, folding the letter. And she was right. The next day we saw them. Karen's new disciples. All women, all in pastel, all with matching clipboards. They didn't knock, they just loitered, wandering by our property, jotting things down, glancing at our mailbox like it was a weapon. It was like living in a sitcom where the villains were all PTA moms with a god complex. That afternoon, a Girl Scout walked up our driveway to sell cookies. She barely got 5 steps before her mom sprinted across the sidewalk and yanked her away by the backpack like she was about to step into a bear trap. We weren't just the new couple anymore. We were the infestation. And Karen, she was glowing, positively radiant with power. She strutted past our home every morning like she was measuring it for demolition. Her new favorite move, stopping directly in front of our lawn, staring at our flowers like they insulted her personally, and jotting down notes on a clipboard that had to be full of pure fiction. One morning I caught her with a tiny laser pointer, shining it at our bird bath. To what end? I have no idea. But she looked proud of it. Then came the inspection team. 2 HOA inspectors, matching polos, clip-on badges, clipboards that looked freshly laminated. They knocked like they had warrants. "We've received reports of unauthorized renovations," one of them said, nose twitching like he smelled a lie. I looked at the porch, then back at him. "You mean the chair?" "It's been painted," the other said. "Cherry wood. That's not on the approved HOA stain palette." I opened my mouth. My wife appeared behind me, barefoot, calm, 8 months pregnant now, her belly a full moon, her expression a loaded weapon. "Do either of you have legal authority to enter this property?" They hesitated. "I'll take that as a no," she said. "You can leave." The taller one blinked. "Ma'am, it's a courtesy inspection." "Then let me be courteous. Goodbye." She shut the door. 2 hours later, another notice arrived. Failure to cooperate with inspection protocol. We were fined again. That evening, Karen posted in the neighborhood Facebook group. No names, but the tone. "Some people think pregnancy is a shield. It's not. Rules are for everyone." My wife didn't flinch. She closed the laptop, walked into the backyard, and started watering the vegetables. "She wants to make me feel small," she said, casually picking off dead basil leaves. "She wants to humiliate you," I said. My wife smiled faintly. "Not enough? She wants to be me." And in a twisted way, she was right. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was waging psychological war. We'd hear rustling outside at night. Motion lights flicked on randomly. Our trash was knocked over 3 mornings in a row. And then came the note. It wasn't official, not typed, not signed. Just a piece of notebook paper, folded once. I found it tucked into our mailbox. No envelope. It read, "She's not who she pretends to be. I know, and I'm not the only one watching." No name. But the handwriting was unmistakably Karen. Dramatic, sharp, and overly flourished, like someone who signs birthday cards with a quill. My wife read it twice, then sat on the porch steps. No tears, no rant, just a deep, controlled breath. I could tell it got to her. "I'm gonna say something," I muttered. She held up a hand. "That's what she wants, escalation." So I didn't. I waited, but I started watching Karen closer. She'd talk to neighbors in hushed tones. I saw her whisper to an older man walking his dog. He looked over at our house, then quickly looked away. 2 board members knocked on our neighbor's door the next day. They all glanced over at us, then went inside. That's when the paranoia truly began. My wife started writing everything down. Every notice, every complaint, every conversation. She made copies, built a folder. She labeled it Karen's Crusade. We started seeing the same white sedan parked across from our house every other day. Always someone different behind the wheel, always pretending to scroll a phone. Then the final blow came. A sealed letter, official HOA watermark. Inside, a printed notarized complaint. A sworn statement accusing my wife of attempting to deceive the homeowners association by falsifying a pregnancy in pursuit of preferential treatment and community leniency. Let me say that again. Karen officially accused my wife, 8 months pregnant, of faking it. For sympathy points. I read the letter 3 times, each time slower than the last, then once more out loud. The accusation wasn't just outrageous, it was venomous. It called our unborn child a prop. It called my wife a liar. And worst of all, it was signed by 3 other board members. That wasn't just petty. That was evil. Because if Karen thought accusing a pregnant woman of faking it would win her control, she didn't realize who she'd just declared war on. And the woman standing across from her wasn't just carrying a baby. She was carrying receipts. Karen wanted a scene. So we gave her a stage. The HOA called an emergency meeting to address unresolved tension and disruption within the community. Translation? They were tired of pretending this wasn't about us. We showed up a few minutes early. The meeting was held in the rec center. Folding chairs, fake ferns, and a table of stale Costco cookies arranged like a last meal. Karen was already there, center seat, clipboard in hand, hair extra stiff, smile extra tight. She looked like a dictator throwing a bake sale. The board members flanked her like nervous jurors. One of them wouldn't stop rubbing his temple. Another kept checking her phone like she wanted to fake a family emergency. Neighbors trickled in. Some nodded politely. Most didn't. At least 3 were Karen's disciples. I recognized them from the pastel patrol. Each one carried a highlighted HOA handbook like it was gospel. And then my wife walked in. 8 months pregnant, calm, dressed in slate gray linen, no makeup, no jewelry, just presence. She didn't sit. She stood in the back, arms loose, chin lifted, like a witness, not a defendant. Karen's smile faltered for a second. Then she cleared her throat and stood. "Thank you all for coming," she said, scanning the crowd. "As president of the Sycamore Grove HOA, I take the safety, cohesion, and harmony of our neighborhood very seriously." Someone coughed. Karen powered through. "We've had numerous complaints, repeated violations, and frankly, a consistent pattern of behavior that undermines our shared values." Her voice was crisp, practiced. A pageant queen rehearsing a takedown. She lifted a packet of paper from her folder with one hand, slow and theatrical. "This file contains every documented infraction committed by Lot 14C, she said, holding it like it was radioactive, which includes, but is not limited to, property defacement, behavioral intimidation, and falsified medical claims. A buzz rippled through the chairs. People shifted, whispered. The man behind us muttered, "Wait, what did she just say?" Karen turned a fraction toward him. "We're not here to argue. We're here to clarify." She stepped forward. "This behavior has gone unchecked for too long. We have offered mediation, grace, leniency, but what we are now seeing, what I am personally witnessing, is the manipulation of our systems for attention. She paused for dramatic effect. This has become a pattern of deceit. My wife didn't move. Her eyes were locked on Karen, calm, cold, watching. Karen gestured toward her. Your wife, she said, voice rising slightly, has exploited this community. Her behavior, her performance, has been disruptive, dishonest, and emotionally destabilizing to several families. The room fell still. Someone 2 rows ahead turned their head and looked back at us. My wife tilted her head. Performance, she said quietly. Karen nodded. You've weaponized sympathy. You've used your condition to deflect responsibility. You've used your body as a smokescreen for manipulation. Which rule does that violate? My wife asked. Karen hesitated. Then, this isn't about rules. This is about intent, about toxicity, about people who come into a place and think they're better than it. My wife blinked. You mean people like you? Karen's face flushed deep red. You've disrespected me since the day you arrived, she snapped. I've barely spoken to you, my wife said flatly. Karen lost it. You don't belong here. And then, before anyone could move, before logic could intervene, she stepped forward and slapped her. The sound cracked through the room like lightning in a glass box. It wasn't just a slap, it was a breakdown. Karen's hand lingered in the air for a fraction too long, like even her muscles were shocked by what they'd done. Gasps, phones lifted. Somewhere behind me, a chair scraped backward. Oh my God, someone whispered. She just hit her, someone else said. Karen's face changed immediately. She looked down at her hand like it betrayed her. My wife's face turned with the impact. But that was it. No stumble, no collapse. She just turned back and smiled. It wasn't nice, it wasn't triumphant, it was surgical, like a blade being unsheathed. Karen took 2 steps back. She was taunting me? Did you all see? She was smirking. You just hit a pregnant woman, a man said, voice sharp. Another woman stood up. You've lost it, Karen. Karen whipped toward the board. Well, say something. No one moved. One of them stood, the one with the phone. She leaned into her mic and said, This meeting is adjourned. Karen's mouth opened in shock. I'm the president. You just assaulted someone, the board member said. You're done. Karen staggered. Someone in the front row stood up, looked at her, and walked out. No one followed Karen. Everyone followed us. My wife turned. Her hand gently cradled her stomach. She walked past Karen without a word, but as she reached the door, she paused, turned her head slightly. Don't worry, she said softly. You'll be hearing from me soon. Karen flinched like she'd been struck again. Outside, I finally exhaled. My wife looked at me, calm, controlled. She just ended herself, I said. She nodded, then glanced back at the building. No, she said. Not yet. She thinks this was a fight, she added as we reached the car. She hasn't seen what I do to people who break actual laws. Because while Karen spent the next 48 hours trying to spin it, my wife spent them building a legal case. And the next time Karen saw her, she wouldn't be standing in front of a neighborhood. She'd be standing in front of a judge. I thought Karen blowing up in public would give my wife the justice she needed, that the world seeing it, the sound of that slap echoing through the room, would be enough. It wasn't. If anything, it focused her. That night, she barely said a word. She sat on the couch with a stack of printed HOA letters, her laptop open, fingers moving with surgical calm. I made us tea. She didn't touch hers. By midnight, she had 3 folders open: bylaw breaches, torts, and threats. Karen, direct violations. This board, she said without looking up, is in violation of its own charter. I watched her highlight lines like a sniper picking targets. She wasn't angry, she was calculating. By morning, we had a plan. Restraining order first, not just for the slap, but for a full pattern of harassment, surveillance, hostile language, endangerment during pregnancy. She filed it online, printed it, then drove it to the courthouse herself. Karen, meanwhile, was playing optics. She went door to door with forced smiles and a tray of thawed cookies. We watched from our window as she handed one to Mrs. Delaney. The old woman took it, stared her down, and dropped it into the trash. She's losing the room, I said. My wife didn't answer. She was already drafting the second filing, a formal ethics complaint against the HOA board for retaliatory fines, ADA violations, abuse of power. Then came the Facebook post. We've all made mistakes. Some of us lash out when provoked. Others pretend to be victims. Let's focus on healing, not hate. No names. But our house photo was in the background. My wife printed it, added it to a folder labeled Exhibit C, and kept going. No reaction, no drama, just data. She called the county office and filed a report with the HOA Oversight Division. She pulled the HOA charter from the local archive and annotated every place Karen had overstepped. Then she walked door to door with me and handed out a 2-page memo, explaining in plain language what Karen and the board had violated. It wasn't emotional, it was a legal autopsy. One neighbor tried to hand it back. My wife smiled politely. It's okay. You'll want to know when this hits court. Karen watched us from her porch. She was gripping a coffee mug so tightly I half expected it to shatter. She didn't wave. We did. Later that night, someone dumped a bucket of shredded paper into our yard. Petty. We installed a third camera. By Friday, she'd filed. Not criminal, not yet. But civil. Karen was the named respondent. 3 board members listed as co-defendants. The claim? Intentional infliction of emotional distress, harassment, libel, negligent governance. The HOA's lawyer responded with a 3-line email requesting informal mediation. My wife declined. We're past informal, she said. She made it public. I'm just returning the favor, with paperwork. Karen called an emergency board meeting. We weren't invited, but a neighbor texted me a recording. Karen's voice, she's bluffing, it's a pressure tactic. Someone else, she's citing state law, Karen. Another, you slapped her, in front of everyone. Karen, it wasn't even hard. The next day, the HOA lawyer sent us a formal notice. They were reviewing documentation and seeking advice from outside counsel. Translation? We're in over our heads. Karen showed up at the park the next day, pretending to check her phone, pretending not to follow my wife's walking path, until my wife stopped. You're violating a court order, she said evenly. Karen froze. I'm not talking to you. You're within 15 feet. Karen took a step back. You can go, my wife said, or we can let the officer escort you. Karen left. She never came back. But that night, someone cracked a raw egg on our front steps. We reviewed the footage. Dark hoodie. Hood up. Could have been anyone. We sent it to the court anyway. Then came the deposition. Karen showed up late, wearing sunglasses indoors and dragging a binder like it owed her money. She didn't bring a lawyer. She didn't bring shame either. Let's make this quick, she said. I have a dentist appointment. My wife clicked her pen. Do you recognize this email? She asked, sliding over the first page. Karen glanced. It's an old message. Frustration. It says, I want her gone before the baby's here. Karen shrugged. I was venting. This one, my wife said, flipping pages, says, let's fine her until she gives up. Make the house uncomfortable. Karen laughed. Do you honestly think anyone cares about this? This is suburban gossip, not a court case. I'm not in court, my wife said. Yet. Karen leaned back. You don't scare me. That's fine, my wife said. The judge doesn't need you scared, just honest. For 40 minutes, she questioned Karen. Not rapid fire, not loud, calm, precise, like she was cataloging a broken system. Karen tried to deflect. She made jokes. She blamed the board. She claimed emails were taken out of context. My wife had context. Every date, every violation, every fine, every social media post. At minute 34, Karen cracked. You're obsessed with me, she snapped. I'm documenting harassment, my wife said. That's different. You're blowing this out of proportion. I barely touched you. You slapped a pregnant woman. It wasn't... My wife leaned forward. This isn't an argument, she said. It's a deposition. You can leave, but everything you say, or don't say, will be entered into the file. Karen stood. I'm not playing this game. No one said it was a game, my wife replied. That's your problem. Karen left. No one followed. The board didn't back her. The neighborhood didn't defend her. Even her allies were going quiet. One emailed anonymously, "This has gone too far. I didn't sign up for this." And then, that night, A single message from Karen herself. No subject, no greeting. Just one line. This doesn't have to end in court. My wife didn't respond. She didn't need to. She already had what she needed. As we sat on the porch that evening, she asked me quietly, "Do you think I'm doing the right thing?" I looked at her, strong, calm, brilliant, and said, "You're doing what she never expected. You're finishing what she started." She nodded. "It's already drafted," she said. "Motion for permanent injunction, full board audit, petition for HOA dissolution." She opened her laptop. "Now let's file it. Court hearings aren't like TV, no slamming gavels, no dramatic soundtrack, just fluorescent lights, anxious pacing, and a faint smell of burnt coffee." But the day Karen walked into that courtroom, it was better than television. She arrived early, hair curled, blazer 2 sizes too tight, lipstick like a warning sign. She looked like she'd Googled power outfit and clicked the first image that screamed local tyrant. She locked eyes with us and smiled, smug, like she thought this was a PTA scuffle, like the slap, the restraining order, the lawsuit were just opening acts. She walked in with a portfolio under one arm and zero legal representation. "I'm self-represented," she told the clerk. The clerk didn't even blink. "Good luck." The courtroom wasn't packed, but it had weight. 2 former board members sat behind us. One neighbor I hadn't seen since Halloween sat in the back row with a popcorn bag. I'm not kidding. Even Mrs. Delaney was there, dressed like it was Sunday Mass, holding a Werther's in her lap like a communion wafer. Karen sat 2 rows up, alone. She kept glancing around like she expected a cavalry. None came. The judge entered. Older woman, cropped silver hair, robe sharp as steel, reputation for zero tolerance. She looked over the case file with eyebrows arched like cliffs. Then she said, "Let's begin." My wife rose. No theatrics, just presence. She laid out the timeline, the move-in, the first notices, the inspections, the fines, the Facebook posts, the slap. Then she passed the judge 3 color-coded binders, one for exhibits, one for correspondence, one for documented witness statements. The judge flipped through them, nodding slowly. When my wife finished, the judge said, "The court acknowledges documented harassment, escalation, and physical contact. Ms. Crandall, you may respond." Karen stood, fluffed her blazer, smiled like a pageant queen who knew she'd already lost but planned to go out with a monologue. "Your Honor," she began, "I think we can all agree this has gotten a bit theatrical." No one agreed. Karen kept going. "This woman moved in and decided the rules didn't apply to her. She broke regulations, insulted board members, stirred up the community. And when I tried to enforce the bylaws—" "You slapped her," the judge said. Karen blinked. "She provoked me." "How?" Karen hesitated. She smirked at me. A muffled snort echoed from the back row. Karen scowled. "She paraded around like she was better than everyone. She called me out in front of my neighbors. She weaponized pregnancy for sympathy." The judge narrowed her eyes. "Are you suggesting the plaintiff fabricated her condition?" Karen smiled. "Let's just say I've seen stranger scams." The courtroom hissed like a tea kettle. My wife said nothing. She didn't have to. The judge spoke. "Do you have any medical evidence, sworn statements, or expert testimony to support that?" Karen held up her phone. "I have messages. Residents who felt unsafe. People who saw things. They'll speak if they're not pressured." "Have they submitted written statements?" "But they're afraid." "Have they filed their own complaints?" "Number." "But—" The judge raised a hand. "Ms. Crandall, hearsay is not evidence. Paranoia is not defense. You assaulted someone in a public meeting, and now you're using conspiracy to justify it." Karen's voice cracked. "She's manipulating this entire situation. She's turned everyone against me." A beat, then she pointed. "At me. And he's in on it. He's feeding her everything." The judge turned slowly. "Is that your legal argument, Ms. Crandall?" Karen froze. Her eyes darted toward the board members in the gallery. One of them looked away. Another was already halfway to the door. "She's making me the villain," Karen muttered. "But I was trying to protect the neighborhood." "You tried to protect it from a pregnant lawyer by hiring a private surveillance contractor," my wife said. Karen blinked. "What?" My wife reached into her briefcase, held up an invoice. "Filed last month. You paid $600 to a private security consultant to monitor Lot 14C. You paid someone to follow me. Karen lunged. You had no right. The judge slammed her gavel once. Ms. Crandall, sit down. Karen sat, slowly. Every muscle in her body trembled like a shorted wire. My wife stood. Your Honor, I have sworn statements from 3 neighbors. Emails, text threads, HOA records. This wasn't a one-time incident. This was systematic. The judge scanned the folder again, then turned to Karen. Anything else you'd like to add? Karen looked up, and for the first time, she looked scared. Everyone turned on me, she whispered. No, my wife said quietly. They were waiting for permission. Silence. The judge cleared her throat. Restraining order extended 12 months, damages pending. I will consider the motion for HOA dissolution under separate review. Gavel drop. Karen flinched like it was a gunshot. People stood, moved, filed out. Mrs. Delaney leaned over as she passed and whispered, Told you. Karen didn't lift her head. Outside, the sun was too bright. My wife sat on the steps and took a long breath. That's done, she said. I sat next to her. Not quite. Because back home, there was an envelope, plain, postmarked, county seal. Inside, copies of a security contract, times, dates, billing details. Karen hadn't just surveilled us, she'd recorded us. And that was no longer civil. That was criminal. And Karen, she was about to find out what it feels like to be the subject of a case file. 2 weeks after the court ruling, Karen started to vanish. Not all at once, but like mold fading from a wall the moment light finally hits it. The morning patrols stopped, the clipboard disappeared, the flags came down. The house that used to scream patriotism and pettiness now whispered rot, dead plants, a sagging wreath, and a crumpled yard of the month sign stuffed behind a garbage bin. The only thing that still stood straight, the for sale sign. I should have felt victorious. Instead, it felt quiet. Karen tried to settle, of course. Her lawyer sent an email. A generous offer. We didn't even open the attachment. My wife replied with one sentence. We're not after your money. We're after your precedent. And we got it. Karen was formally removed from the HOA. Not just banned from Sycamore Grove's board, banned from any homeowners association role in the entire county. By court order. She appealed, she lost, she appealed again, she lost again. Turns out judges don't like being lied to in Arial font. The HOA collapsed shortly after. No one wanted to lead. The rest just walked away. By summer, the newsletter stopped. By fall, so did the fines. The neighborhood transformed. Paint colors popped. Garden gnomes emerged from exile. We even planted a little sign on our lawn. Not HOA approved. Definitely not subtle. Your lawn, your therapy. Someone added fairy lights to it. The same week our daughter was born, 3 weeks early, 6 pounds, strong lungs, full head of hair, and the side eye of someone who already knows she's not to be trifled with. The night we brought her home, the porch was lined with candles. Not ours, the neighbors'. A quiet gesture, no speeches, no pity, just light. Because what my wife did wasn't revenge. It was relief. For all of us. For every neighbor who paid a stupid fine. For every kid told their sidewalk chalk was vandalism. For the woman Karen once yelled at for parking too diagonally. She'd been running the neighborhood like a dictatorship wrapped in pastel. And finally, someone had filed an appeal. But the part that stunned me came in the mail. A plain manila envelope, stamped with the county seal. Inside were copies of invoices. Karen hadn't just hired one private security consultant. She'd hired 3. Different names, different companies, same address, hours. Over the course of 3 months, she'd paid for aerial drone surveillance, sidewalk-level audio capture, thermal imaging of our home. It was meticulous, creepy, and in the state of California, illegal. She documented our trash pickups, our deliveries. The day my wife ordered Thai food, she logged it as possible meeting with unknown male. It was chicken pad CUW. She submitted everything to the HOA under the subject line, long-term behavior, pattern justification, strategy. It sounded like a military operation. It read like obsession. We turned it over to the DA. The charge? Unlawful surveillance. Invasion of privacy. She was arrested 3 weeks later, booked, mugshotted, released on bail. Her photo hit the HOA Facebook group before the ink dried. Someone captioned it. Looks like the only committee she's running now is cafeteria cleanup. 47 laughing emojis, 2 crying ones. One comment that said, "She egged my porch once." I feel spiritually cleansed. Karen stopped leaving the house entirely after that. When the for sale sign first went up, I thought it would sell in a week. It didn't. The listing sat for 6 months, got reposted twice. One realtor eventually called it a legally stigmatized property. Someone else submitted it to a worse Zillow listings account. Caption, $789,000 for HOA hell and 1 ghost. Karen finally moved out just before winter. No goodbye, no apology, just tire marks in the driveway and a locked mailbox. My wife stood at the window and watched the moving truck pull away. Then she picked up our daughter and said, "She should have picked a different house." I looked out at the empty porch across the street, the chipped paint, the faded welcome mat, the echoes of someone who used to believe she was untouchable, and I replied, "She should have picked a different enemy." We stood together in the doorway, quiet. The street was still, but inside that silence, everything had changed, because Karen spent years controlling people with fear. My wife used something scarier, facts. There were no more fines, no more clipboard patrols, just a new rule in the neighborhood. Unspoken but deeply understood. Mess with the wrong person, and they might be married to a federal lawyer. And Karen, she never saw it coming.